Hello, welcome to StormShannon.com. This is the first of several videos designed to help you look for where you're missing range of motion. If we can figure out where the range of motion restrictions are, then we can figure out why your body is creating compensations that tend to lead to pain. So that's what these are designed for, is self-assessment tools, so you can figure out where you're lacking, so that then you can use the other videos we have to loosen up the areas, regain that range of motion, get rid of the compensations, and stop chasing pain. And once we get that and you're moving freely, in most cases the pain disappears, you move well, you feel well, everything is doing great. So first we're going to break down flexion. So flexion is merely the act of bending forward. So in this case, we start with global flexion, which is merely standing. You're going to go down, try to touch your toes or touch the floor. So we're going to lean forward, go down, touch the floor, and come back up. How far can you go? You should be able to touch, at least touch your toes, by keeping your knees straight the whole time. So if you can't, then we probably have a limitation there. If it feels really tight, maybe there's some areas we can work on to improve that. Now, just because you can't touch your toes doesn't mean you have tight hamstrings, because there's a lot of muscles working here. So now we have to kind of break this down and figure out where those restrictions are coming from. So what we're going to do is we're going to move to the floor. So in this position, what we're going to do is what's known as the straight leg raise. So I'm going to pull my ankle straight back, raise my leg up as high as I can go. Now ideally, I should have 90 degrees of flexion. You can see I'm not quite there, so I'm a little bit tight myself. So now what we want to do is the first little test is I'm going to repeat it with the toes straight. Can I get higher? In this case, a little bit. So that means I've got a little bit of restriction in my gastroc or my calf. So that's going to be one of the areas I need to look at. And refer to the videos on how to release those muscles to free up that range of motion. So after testing that, we can also test hip flexion. So I bring the knee up as high as I can go. Now with this, you should be able to go beyond 90 to about 120, 130 degrees, keeping it straight in line. If you can't get there, or it starts to drift out as you come up, then we have some restrictions in that hip. Most of the time it's with that internal rotation where it doesn't want to stay in as you bring it up. So look at the videos for the hip restrictions, get working on those exercises to free that up, and see if your straight leg raise doesn't improve. So we've done the right leg. We also obviously want to test the left leg the same way. Toe back, toe down, bring the knee up, looking at those ranges of motion. Comparing one side to the other, is one much tighter than the other, then we may want to focus on that tighter side initially until we get it at least the same as the other side, and then we can work them both equally. Once we do that, we should see an improvement in that range of motion through flexion to where it becomes much easier, you can go much further and have a lot less discomfort with it. So that's the first test. We'll obviously be doing more tests. The next one will be extension. Look for those videos below and continue to assess and see where you're at.